We take a whole week off and motherfuckers are out here getting arrested. Look at our boy, Tuco.
Mm.
Funny story that we both saw here. I just figured we would open up with this because it's actually fucking hilarious. He, the actor who played Tuco in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Raymond Cruz, he got arrested because he hosed a kid. Like, what?
I didn't know spraying somebody with water was assault.
I mean, I guess it is. I mean, I don't know. I just saw this. Like, I literally saw it like 10 minutes before we popped on together. But it says, quote, Cruz was washing his car and asked the little girl to move out of the way. When she didn't, she allegedly got sprayed and believed he did it on purpose. So
I feel like he has he needs to sue or something. That's crazy.
Listen,
there's no way.
We know Tuco's
if he accidentally sprayed her, especially, right? Like, that's crazy.
I mean, it would be funnier if he did accidentally spray her, but
I think, he's probably in character too hard. He can't get out.
I mean, let's be fair. You can't go around just spraying kids, you know? But maybe he did it in like a playful way, like, fucking, hey, get out of here. Like, I don't think that's
it's
that big
fucking
of a deal.
water. Like,
I know.
It's not. Was she allergic to water? Maybe she had rabies.
Maybe. Maybe she hit the eczema.
That's an inside joke a little bit.
Is it?
Remember, we were playing Grounded or something, and we were talking about.
Oh yeah, I do remember. Yeah. Sorry.
And you didn't believe me, and
I didn't believe you. I believe you now though, because you proved it. But you can get eczema outbreaks from water exposure, so maybe that's her problem. I don't know. But I don't know. I thought this was funny.
Eczema flaring up.
Yep. Gotta fucking get him arrested. Because he's brown. No white guy would get arrested for spraying a kid with a hose. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Hey, civil rights. Definitely didn't get arrested back then.
Mm-mm.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Welcome back, folks. This is episode 145, and we're talking about 28 years later today. That's right. Danny Boyle documented 28 days after the outbreak. Some other random person documented 28 weeks after. Now we're back. Now we're 28 years later. So we got that later on. I was very excited to watch this movie, so I'm glad we're talking about it. Yeah. And we got to recently make you watch 28 days later. So. Because of the existence of this one, so that works out nicely. But we took a week off for Labor Day. Is that what the holiday was? Right?
Yeah, there was. Yep.
How was your guys' week? Did you guys do anything for the holiday? Did you do barbecue? Anything?
Just very small barbecue with the fam. Nothing crazy.
Nice. Same. Cool. Dusty, anything?
Yep. No, nothing special for this holiday. No.
I ate a fuck ton of barbecue. I ended up going.
And when you say barbecue,
like barbecue. I went
like
to my
ribs.
Yes,
nice.
I was invited to my cousin's house, and his grandson is on a baseball team, and one of the fathers of one of the kids was also there because he's friends with the grandson, the kid, and he has a smoker. So he brought some brisket, some 7-hour smoked brisket. And some ribs. And let me tell you something. I've had barbecue before. Nick is going to get mad at me if he watches this. I don't give a fuck. Nick is a big fan of barbecue. Loves it. But Nick overdoes it a little bit with the dry rub. Just a little bit.
Uh-oh.
A lot of people overdo it with the dry rub. Like barbecue, anytime that I've had it, it's either loaded with sauce.
Which is great.
Really, though, no. Not for me. I want to taste the meat. You know, The way this guy made it was perfect. He used some like barbecue rub that like was barely like you could taste it, but it wasn't like overpowering. And you just tasted the meat, and it was some of the best ribs I've ever had.
Very good.
Yeah,
nice.
I was a big fan. But yeah, ate a lot of barbecue. Not good for my weight loss journey that I've been on.
I didn't know you were on a weight loss journey.
Yeah, I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. I got a little bit of a gut going. Got fat.
I hear you.
Yeah. I just don't move around a lot, really. You know?
You still going on your walks?
Yeah, been walking and exercising, working out every day now for the last. This is like, but this last week was the third week in a row now that I've been doing it. So,
Well, they say diet is one of the more important parts of actually losing weight, you know?
yeah, but I'm the worst kind of fat. I'm like a skinny fat guy. All I have is the gut, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah.
And I'm skinny
Same.
everywhere else. But I gained a lot of weight. Normally in my life, I run around like 130 to 140 pounds, like, which is actually too skinny for me. I'm 6'1", so like that's way too skinny for me. But now I'm 180. So I don't know how that happened in the last 2 years, but it's just from not walking and like, I don't know, when my dog died 2 years ago, like that was like the only exercise I was really doing. And then I also quit smoking. So like your metabolism slows down when you quit smoking. Smoking also suppresses your appetite from the nicotine.
Right.
So it was just this like confluence of things that happened, and now I just have a fucking belly that I don't like. So I think I just got to get active again and kickstart my metabolism back up. But I've been noticing a change. So got to keep doing it, keep doing the work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm a fat guy now, guys. So.
Okay.
So yeah. Did you guys watch anything over the break at all, or what?
What have I been watching? No, not really.
Yeah, I watched a couple of movies this last 2 weeks. Sat down and watched this movie called Sketch with the family.
Oh, I wanted to watch that. It's on my list. It looked good.
A very clever horror movie.
That's
very,
what I heard.
Very well done. Lots of tropes and callbacks and nods and all that good stuff. Very good movie. Fun for the whole family too. Our 4-year-old, no, not 4-year-old, 5-year-old.
Come on,
she
Doug.
got
lock in.
She got a little scared, but she made it through pretty good.
I had it on I put it on my list the other night. Actually, I'm glad that you told me it was good.
Really good. Then I watched another movie called, I had never heard of it. It's called King Ivory. It's about the fentanyl trade.
Oh.
It takes place really around Oklahoma in the McAllister prison, but it's Ben Foster and a few other good actors, but really good movie as well. Enjoyed it.
Nice.
I haven't caught up fully on Alien Earth. I'm one episode behind as of today.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna be 2 episodes behind tomorrow unless we watch them.
Are you caught up on it, Dusty?
Alien?
Yeah. I won't say any spoilers from Marvin, but
thank you.
I continue to not really care for the show. That's all I'm going to say. However, I will say the last episode, episode 4, is the best episode so far of the season, and the best thing in the Alien franchise since Aliens.
Damn.
This one episode was
That's
even
good.
better than Romulus, in my opinion. And Dusty knows why.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say too much of a spoiler, but let's just say it gets back to basics, baby. And that's the key.
Okay.
So, I'm not fully, I don't know. The show, you know me. I'm not going to rehash what I've said in the past. It's just not doing it for me. It's not a bad show by any stretch. It's a good show. It's just like, I'm just like, I don't know.
I'm still enjoying it. I'm liking the,
yeah, exactly. I'm just a hater.
like the direction it's going in. We're exploring some unexplored avenues. We got, trying to open comms, and we got new creatures and stuff. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that scene or that whole thing with the alien, we'll just call him.
Yeah.
Image, I think, is what Noah calls it.
Okay.
Image.
I like that whole scene where it's like, he's like, this thing is like highly intelligent. Like he's just sitting there looking at him menacingly, plotting his escape, and like who knows what else. I thought that was pretty good. So I do like the whole other aliens thing.
And you'll really like episode 4 though. Then.
Okay.
Good. The thing I'm really running into, the speed bump is, and it's silly, it's like kind of a dusty gripe, but I can't get over it, is that, and I know like it's based off of the research that these Yutani people brought back on the ship of all these life forms and stuff, but like they just know everything about like they're just confidently like, oh yeah, that's a xenomorph and it gestates in like a human and it plants on it with the face hugger, and it's like at one point I literally thought they were going to refer to it as a face hugger. Like I'm just, I don't know, it just seems like, okay, well if that's the case, how come they're all ignorant to this being in the original Alien? If this is supposed to precede that, you would think that like,
well, corporate knows, but the people they send out to get, yeah,
I don't know. For me, that kind of just like removes the horror of it a little bit. I almost would have rather just seen like different alien life forms altogether and not even have a xenomorph, because like the other aliens are interesting.
Yeah.
So I think I probably would have preferred that, but whatever. We'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, they actually had to reshoot the opening scene from episode 1 because of this episode, because Noah Hawley didn't know he was going to do it. And he actually had a internal debate with himself about whether he should direct it or let somebody else do it, because...
Episode 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that episode quite a bit. Dusty, you're an Office fan? Can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Did you start the paper?
No, not yet.
So the paper came out this week. It's the spinoff. Yeah,
that's right.
I like had no interest really in watching it, but like I ran out of stuff that I wanted to watch, like just quick and easy shit. Like I know I have to watch Andor. I know I have to watch last of the season 2.
You haven't even watched Andor. You actually, you know what? You can't even speak to me until you finish Andor.
No,
how about that?
Yeah, but
Andor. Hey, who's talking?
I can't hear him.
Andor's not one of those casual like I could just sit and watch things. Like you got to like invest your time and energy into that.
Yeah.
That's right. But the paper's something I could just like put on and just chill and watch and fucking
I know.
Eat snacks. That's fair. And I always need one of those shows like existing so I could watch. But
those are good to have.
Yeah. So I watched the first 2 episodes.
That's kind of like how what's the name is for me? Ted Lasso. Like you don't have to pay a lot of attention, I feel like. But maybe.
No, it's not.
Now I'm thinking about it. Maybe. No, I mean
it's similar.
It's a lot in there.
It is. It's a little bit more emotional, but it's similar vibe. I could understand that. But yeah, I watched the first 2-3 episodes. I think it's pretty all right so far. Like I've had a couple of laughs. It's not like, The Office wasn't like a fucking knee slapper, like you're laughing all the time type of show. Like it has funny moments.
It's got like highs and not even lows. It's like highs and just whatever's right. Like it's not like a low, like it's bad, but the highs are really good. Like when it's when it has like the payoff moment where it's like really funny, it's like that shit is fucking hilarious.
I'm a little bit torn. I'm not torn in that I don't like it. I'm a little bit torn in like gauging my interest level on it. I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah.
And The Office started out slow as well. I never watched The Office in real time. I ended up catching up to it by the time it like ended. Like I watched the last season, I think, in like real time.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend at the time was like an Office fanatic, and she was like, "Oh, you got to watch The Office." I was like, "All right, fine."
Yeah.
But they're not trying to be different. I'll tell you that. It's like very much like this is a sequel to The Office. It's the same thing. Well, so the premise is the same documentary crew that filmed The Office.
Oh, okay. So
in universe is doing their next documentary, and it's on a paper company that bought Dunder Mifflin, actually. And they actually own like a local paper in Ohio that used to be this like old timey, like really like prevalent and like actual like journalistic newspaper in the local area, and it was held to like very high esteem, and now it's like pretty much just like a tabloid. It's dog shit. So Domhnall Gleeson's character gets hired to be the editor-in-chief, and he's trying to sort of revive it and bring back like the old styles of like journalism and stuff. So I think that's cool, especially in 2025 where like journalism is dead for the most part. It's an interesting concept. I don't know that so far the characters don't have the same. I guess, charm or appeal that the Office characters had. But at the same time, it's not really fair to say that because I've spent 3 episodes with them, not 9 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but so far it's okay. There's one, if you read the reviews though, that every single, and I shit you not, every single review mentions this one character, Esmeralda, who's this like Italian lady, and how fucking annoying she is. And I read some reviews first before watching it, and I was like, God, this is no way that she's that bad. She might be one of the most obnoxious characters I've ever seen in anything ever. Like, it's so oppressively bad.
Wow.
Who's she played by? Let's see.
Some actress I've never heard of. It's not the actor that's the problem. It's the way she's written.
Yeah, no, sure. I was just trying to see if I was familiar with her.
And she's very purposely written to be annoying. In fact, she was the interim editor until Domhnall Gleeson's character steps in. So she's like jealous that he took over. And so her whole thing is like she's trying to like steamroll his like first couple of days on the job or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's just super fucking annoying. So I know she was purposely written like that, but they might need to like ease up a bit on her annoyance in the next season. But yeah, it's a fun watch if you like The Office. I would check it out for sure.
Yeah, I saw an interview with the creator / showrunner, and he was like, this is definitely made for people who enjoyed The Office. I know people complain about remakes and reboots, and they were very protective of The Office from the UK being made into a US version, and everybody fell in love with that. So if you liked it, you should like this one, is what he said.
Let's get into the news because we missed 2 weeks. There's a lot to talk about. And I guess I'll kick it off. I'm not the newsman, folks. Dusty is. In fact, he used to be a video game journalist, and now he muckrakes for us here on the podcast. But sometimes I step on his toes, and I'm going to do so right now. Man of Tomorrow. In theaters on July 9th, 2027, baby. Trust in Gunn, and he shall deliver. Okay? So Superman was a massive... I was just saying to Ed yesterday, I was like, man... What a good feeling that we were like hyped for Superman for like 3 years leading up to it. And we were very confident that it was going to be good, and it was good. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like you get hyped, and then it just not only lives up to your expectations but exceeds them. In this case, for me anyway,
it's a rarity.
Super rare.
Yeah. But yeah, so a couple weeks ago, James Gunn it was very shortly after the release of Superman, James Gunn started talking about it. He was like, I got a treatment for this next movie in the Super family. Made very specific. He said it will heavily feature Superman, but it is not Superman 2. And everybody was like, okay, so we got Superman, then we got one Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. What's this other movie going to be? There's a lot of speculation. Well, then a couple days ago, he dropped this announcement that the next movie after Supergirl, the next movie in the Super family, is Man of Tomorrow. He's already finished the treatment for it. He's finalizing some details on the script, like really perfecting it. But the movie's ready to go into production soon, which is very fast turnaround for a movie like this. And he posted the announcement with this image right here, drawn by the GOAT, Jim Lee. Ooh. And this is an image of Lex Luthor in his famous war suit that he builds to fight Superman. And Superman next to him with a screwdriver in his hand. Now, I don't know about you, but this leads me to believe that Superman and him are going to team up.
Yeah.
And considering this is following Woman of Tomorrow, I have to guess they're going to be teaming up to fight Brainiac.
Sure. Reasonable.
Right? Now, obviously, Lex is going to try to, fucking stab Superman in the back, but...
Of course.
But I have a feeling that this is where we're going here. Thoughts, concerns, feelings, Dusty?
No. I mean, what do you think? You think he's going to, like, push to get Lex out of jails because he needs help, or Lex is going to break out? Like, how do you think that whole... Because... Right now, we've got an incarcerated Lex Luthor, as far as I know. So
he's in Belle Reve.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. So I haven't really watched any of like the usual suspects do their breakdowns and theories and stuff. I'm kind of like over that shit because they say some ridiculous stuff nowadays just for the sake of putting out videos. But so Belle Reve is the prison that the Suicide Squad people are from, and the prison that the Creature Commandos go to at the end of that first season. So it's a fucking penitentiary for villains and creatures and monsters that's overseen by Argus, which is overseen by Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller is going to have her own show. He's already announced that. And so I would have a feel. Her whole thing is like dealing with like these people and like now I don't know if he's gonna do this because it's the plot of My Adventures with Superman, the animated series.
Right.
Where Amanda Waller is like actively trying to fucking take out Superman because she sees him as like an alien threat or whatever. So I'm just thinking like they could continue that arc of Lex being like, this dude's a fucking alien and I don't trust his ass. And he makes humans
so
like
she
look
uses
bad.
Him.
So they team up and like, maybe do something like that.
It's reasonable.
But I don't know. But I think the Woman of Tomorrow movie is going to be fucking great. If they follow that Tom King comic book, I think it'll be really good. And it'll give us some more context into like Krypton, which I think will be cool because, they skipped it in Superman other than like, his parents and stuff like that. But yeah, big announcement.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, in my opinion, it's the right way to approach the DCU because obviously Marvel had like this very specific formula that they themselves can't even like for some reason keep doing. Like they invented the formula and then they like deviated from it for some reason where it was like every movie led to the next movie. I don't think James Gunn is doing that. And from watching these first couple episodes of Peacemaker, I feel like I think we talked about it a little bit, but like you could just tell he's not really telling like connected stories where like Captain America leads to Thor and Thor leads to Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 2 leads to this. It's just like, here's a bunch of stories that take place in the same universe and there will be crossovers here and there. But I don't think he has like a fully set like timeline of movies leading into one or the other. And he's calling this the Superman saga. So I don't know. I think that's a good approach. Because Superman is the fucking blueprint. Without Superman, you wouldn't have superheroes. So it's like it makes sense to focus your universe on the guy who started the fucking whole thing to begin with. Like that's the right approach. Instead of like rushing to Justice League or rushing to whatever team up movie the studio wants him to do.
Right. And it's simple. Like it's a lot easier just to focus on Superman instead of making it so convoluted right away.
And he's doing a good job of building the universe out. Like we got an introduction to the Justice Gang in Superman's movie. They didn't dominate the plot. They were just there. They amplified his character and his arc. A brief shot in the Hall of Justice, we see that like this whole history of heroes that we might learn about. Like so there's a lot of little pieces and stuff. He's doing a lot of world building, even though that's not the explicit purpose of that movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I like that approach. And speaking of team ups, I think it might be a while before we even see a Justice League proper movie. I think we might see like more low key team ups before that, like a
yes, it should be.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I agree.
Like who knows when we're gonna see?
You don't want to
Batman.
blow the load too soon.
You never want to blow your load too soon. Speaking of the DCU, I saw a very interesting thing here while we're on the topic of DCU. Apparently, according to Screen Rant, Tyler Hoechlin, former Superman himself, made a couple comments about wanting to play Batman.
Oh wow. What the fuck? That would be insane, right?
Well, I mean, I thought he was a great Superman. I think Dusty agrees he was a great Superman. But looking at this guy's chin and jawline, like...
Oh, has he got it?
I could see this. I could see the Batman.
Are you showing it? Hold on.
Oh, do you not see it?
I see it now. I was looking at something else.
I could see it. put a little cowl on him.
Oh yeah, he's got a strong, wide chin. That's a Batman chin.
That's a Batman chin. What do you think, Dusty?
Yeah, he could do it.
You
How
think
tall
so?
is he?
I think he's pretty tall, actually.
I mean, he probably had to be to
6
play
feet.
Superman.
6
Yeah.
feet. And he's 37, so he's the perfect age because the Batman movie that's coming, Batman the Brave and the Bold, which is based off of the comic book where he trains his son Damian that he had with Talia al Ghul, James Gunn explicitly said that's the story that they're pulling a lot of inspiration from. It puts Batman at around 37 years old, like 35 to 40 years old. So perfect age. He's not that much older than fucking David Cornsweet.
Yeah.
At 37. So in The Brave and the Bold, Marvin, again, it's him training his son Damian. Damian's like a little bit of a hothead and whatever. Did you ever read that, Dusty?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's training him to be a new Robin. And that book never explicitly says how old he is, but it does give you a little bit of frame of reference because I think Damian is 10 in that. And I think it says that Batman has been crime fighting for like 15 years or so. And in Batman lore, like in the comic books, it's established that he like finishes his training with the League of I forget, the League of Assassins, and like he begins his crime fighting journey as Batman at about 25. So it would put him around 35 to 40 years old in this Brave and the Bold story. So that said, at that age, you still get a Batman who is like a veteran crime fighter and is like grizzled and maybe a little bit jaded by like the fact that he hasn't made that much of a difference in Gotham, but also he could still be in like peak physical condition and not like the old Bruce where he's just like a mentor type of guy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think heck, he might be my top pick for Batman, honestly. I don't know.
It's so funny though.
It would be cool, right?
I mean, there's a lot of people that haven't seen the
Superman and Lois?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I haven't seen it, so it's not like I know him as Superman, right? So
Right.
Do they
I'm sure there's a lot
try?
of other people like that.
Do they try to do the dual voices Batman, or do they do like the cartoony one where he doesn't really change his voice from Batman to Bruce Wayne? And if so, that'd be the only thing that concerns me because his voice as Superman was fine as Superman and Clark, but I don't necessarily see it as that deep Bruce Wayne Batman. He doesn't have that.
That might be a little bit because you got, and rightfully so, what's his name's voice like so ingrained into your memory, right? Like that's the definitive Batman for a lot of people. What's his name? Fucking, I should go to hell for not remembering.
Jesus.
No, I really should. Kevin Conroy. Sorry.
Right.
I apologize.
R.I.P.
The Batman fandom. The Hit Squad's going to be in my backyard later. I think his voice is so iconic that it's hard to imagine another just regular voice playing him. But I don't mind like the modulation that they did with Zack Snyder's version of it. Like I didn't mind the voice changer thing he put on it. That was fine. I don't mind even doing a little bit of this, even though it is a little ridiculous sometimes. But like, yeah.
We had Adam West too. He didn't really change his in the show.
No, he did not. I think because James Gunn also said he doesn't want to make it as like brutally realistic as like Nolan's Batman, and he also doesn't want to go as cartoonish as Adam West's Batman. So I'd imagine arriving somewhere in the middle will probably end up being a lot like the animated series.
Yep.
So who knows? But apparently the quote from Screen Rant said, have you guys seen Robert Pattinson as Batman? Do you think Robert Pattinson's Batman fits into James Gunn's DCU? And Tyler Hoechlin said, well, selfishly, I'm not going to say no because I still want to play Batman. I think, and I say that Rob did a fantastic, fantastic job. And with Matt Reeves, it was great. So I'm happy to let them keep doing their thing and maybe leave the door open. So, so yeah, I don't know. This just comments of him saying he wants to play Batman. So everybody's kind of running with it. But I could see it.
Let him do it, I say.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Yep.
Let him fight Alan Ritchson over it.
I think Alan Ritchson would be good too, but he's just too big, and I don't know if anybody would win that fight, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. Well, that was my introduction to the news, Dusty. What do you got for us this week?
All right. Well, we got some more remakes incoming.
Hell
this
yeah.
time from the creators of Cobra Kai.
Oh, no.
John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Heald. They're joining forces again to bring Nightrider to the big screen for Universal.
Classic.
Very classic. Yeah, David Hasselhoff. Heald, Hurwitz, and Schlossberg are in early talks to write the screenplay with Hurwitz and Schlossberg in early talks to direct. This is also the team that's behind Ferris Bueller's spinoff titled Sam and Victor's Day Off for Paramount.
I didn't even know that was good. That's the two guys who steal the car.
Yes.
They talked about that like fucking 12 years ago, I feel like.
Apparently it's still in the works. These two guys cut their teeth on the Harold and Kumar movies, and they did the American Pie sequel, American Reunion. So they're familiar with taking IP and doing other things with it. But those three guys right there. They did the Cobra Kai, which this article says was a Netflix sensation, and I just want to call out that it was a YouTube sensation.
It was a YouTube sensation first, yeah.
By Netflix subsequently.
Get it right.
So.
That's right.
That's right. Anyhow. So we got that to look forward to. And also more remakes. We got a Goonies sequel update, and I'm actually kind of excited about this one, Dan. Our boy Patsy Pansaroli is doing this one.
That's quite a name.
Yeah. He was asked about the movie during a Deadline moderated Winston Baker panel at the Venice Film Festival. Now, Patsy Pansaroli, his directorial debut was Old Henry, Dan. So
it's some wacky name. What was it?
Patsy Pansaroli.
And what was the director?
No, he meant to say debut. I think he fumbled.
Yeah, directorial debut. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
His directorial debut was
the guy's name is
a
directorial debut.
A Western with, what's his name? That Dan and I really enjoyed called Old Henry.
Old Henry movie was great.
Yeah,
that's
I actually just rewatched it and made Christina watch it. She was tired. Yeah, Tim Blake. She fell asleep, but she got the gist of it and enjoyed it. So
nice.
But yeah, he was talking about it during this Deadline panel at the film festival, and he says, I've turned in the first draft, which is very well received, and I'm on the second draft, and I'm about 95% done with that, so we're moving in the right direction. I know there's a lot of do we need a new Goonies, but I'm the biggest fan of the original. It's my favorite movie of all time. I'd never redo the Goonies. To me, it was a story that never ended, so this is the movie I want to see as one of its biggest fans.
So, all right, you gonna involve Steven Spielberg or nah? Because you kind of got to, I feel like.
Yeah, I would imagine he would as much as he can. I mean, this is going to be like, Noah Hawley or Fede Alvarez talking to Ridley Scott when they're doing their Alien take.
I mean, I'm sure Spielberg will fucking produce it. Oh, yeah, it says it right here. Spielberg will produce.
Well, he's going to get a producer credit no matter what, but how much he's involved to produce. Because, I mean, lots of movies have 20, 30, 40 producer credits actually, and there's only one or two that really do anything.
Well, him and Columbus wrote it, so. Here's how I would make a Goonies sequel. Super easy. Hey, guys, we're getting together. Every one of these people's alive. We're getting together for a reunion, although Corey Feldman, they might have to kill him off screen because he's a fucking psycho now, but he might be a little too weird to act again. But hey, guys, we're getting together.
What's wrong with him?
He's just out of his fucking mind, Corey Feldman. He's been out of his mind for
what happened? I forgot. What happened with him?
Just being a child actor makes you crazy. You just don't have a childhood. Like Macaulay Culkin, like everybody thinks he's like super weird and eccentric and like on drugs and all this stuff.
He's the like most normal one out of them all.
He is a little strange though. I watched him recently on Hot Wings. I'm sure you did too, Dusty. He was on the Hot Ones rather.
Yeah.
And he's a very eccentric person, like very, very nervous and like fidgety and stuff, but he's like pretty normal. Like he's not a fucking weirdo. Nah, Corey Feldman's a fucking weirdo.
Hollywood will eat you up.
Or it's the Michael Jackson effect. They both were in Michael Jackson's personal kids.
Weird industry.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Chill.
I mean, but Corey was really good friends with Corey Haim too. And there was all those.
Well, they did a lot of drugs together. That's like famously true. Did you guys? Well, anyway, my story would be this: their friends went on this crazy, incredible journey together. We're having like a reunion, like a friend reunion or whatever. and they all have kids, and then their kids go on an adventure. Like that's easy,
Yeah.
easy done. Boom. I hate to have to ask, but I got it. Marvin, have you seen Goonies?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That one. Come on. Now,
Oh my
that's
God.
offensive.
Yeah, okay, that's offensive.
No,
but
that's where I draw the fucking line right
come
there.
on,
I'll tell you right
man.
now.
There's stuff that you haven't seen that's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, we
Nah,
still got
I
the
understand.
Breakfast Club, I think, on the list,
I
right?
understand. Yeah, he hasn't seen Breakfast Club. What else you got, Dusty?
All right. Well, you were talking about getting in shape. If you'd been in LA, you could have gone to the Culver Theater for a early screening of The Long Walk, Dan, wherein attendees had to maintain a 3 mile per hour speed on a treadmill in order to finish the movie.
That's hilarious.
So you go to the theater and walk the long walk with the people in the movie, and you have to walk 3 miles an hour, or you get kicked out.
That
I
is
thought was kind
wild.
of funny. Yeah.
That is funny. That's wild. What the hell?
Some people, they're
This movie is getting that, that mod. You're right over there, Marvin?
I was lagging, right?
No, I thought you were fucking
Oh,
exasperating.
Oh no, I just said I was lagging because I heard
Oh.
you guys skipping. So I think we'll be good.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. This movie's getting the modern day horror movie overhyped fucking marketing treatment of like fucking theaters or people are just gasping for air while they're watching like crazy.
I've never fallen for that again after
Nah.
Long Legs.
Long
so they're
legs.
on the treadmill.
That killed it.
Yeah.
Hype. I won't have hype ever again.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I
Yeah.
will not be fooled again. But I do think this movie's going to be good. The book was fucking cool. So
Yeah. Not a lot of good gimmicks you can put in a theater, but I feel like this one was probably pretty clever because
yeah,
I
and
mean, it's a
releasing.
long walk and
yeah.
you're walking.
When does it come out again? I think soon, right?
Yeah.
Might try to get to the theater to see this one.
September 12th. So it's out.
No,
No, I'm sorry.
8th.
Next. Yeah. Comes out this Friday, this week.
That's interesting. They should have waited till October.
Yeah.
Although it's not. I mean, I
Well,
guess it is
yeah.
a horror, but
When did Long Legs come out?
October, I think.
Hmm.
No, Long Legs was
Maybe.
not October. Long Legs was July.
Right. So I don't know what it is about it, but
I don't know.
it's not like I don't know when like movies haven't really been on
On theme.
theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like they used to. It used to be like a thing, like, oh man, it's about to be Halloween. Let's see what's gonna come out. And you go see it.
Yep.
But like that's not really a thing anymore. Even with Christmas
It's
movies,
still-
like
a little bit.
Sometimes, but not really. Everybody
Maybe.
wants to hit those fucking summer numbers, you know? And then they
True.
fucking
Yes.
that's the bait. That's the bait though.
Yeah.
Because then you're competing with Superman and you get fucking
You get
raked
fucking
over the
shit.
fucking coals.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
This looks good though. I'm excited to see this. This is what's his name? The director who directed Constantine, Francis Lawrence, is making this movie.
Yeah.
It's got the Hunger Game movies under his belt. He's no slouch. I think this is going to be a good one. Can't talk about horror movie news without talking about the Scream Queen herself, everybody's favorite Scream Queen, and her mother, the original, very first Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis, for the 63rd anniversary of Psycho. Jamie Lee Curtis recreated the most famous image of her mother, Janet Leigh, from Psycho.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you ever see Psycho, Marvin?
What was that thing? What was that marketing thing Disney was doing with Jamie Lee Curtis for Freaky or Friday or whatever?
Oh, I didn't see any of that.
You didn't? It was like
No.
she had on some very revealing attire for a Disney advertisement. I was
Oh, is that the
shocked.
one where they were talking about like people were bringing up how attractive she is? Like,
Yes.
is that her
probably?
her boobs were like smushed against the window? Like, yeah, okay, I did see that.
Yeah. that
Nah,
shit's
Jamie
funny.
Lee's got the body, bro. Just watch True Lies, man.
Nah, bro. Watch Trading Places. That's
Trading
the real
Places. Yeah.
That's true.
one. Real ones know.
That is
Trading
true.
Places. For my real gooners.
That was back when the internet didn't exist. You had to just take what you could get.
Ooh.
That movie was like a gold mine.
Mhm.
My childhood boob viewing movie was Terminator 1. There's a flash of her boob in the sex scene for like 8 seconds, not even. It's just like it's there and then it's gone again, but that was the one.
Remember when I called out the boobs in I think it was Star Wars. I forget which one it was. And you guys were like, no, there's no nipples. And I'm like, I saw nipples.
I don't remember.
I remember.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, I forget which one it was.
That's
I have to. It was one of the prequels.
That's funny. What else you got for us this week?
Well, we
Dusty?
talked about John Williams and the collection of CDs that you can buy for all the work that he's done. Well, as it turns out, he himself is not a fan of soundtracks in general.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, no, he was.
How does that make sense?
He was interviewed by Tim Grieving for his biography, John Williams, A Composer's Life, being published by Oxford University's Press in September. And he confessed, I never liked film music very much. Film music, however good it can be, and it usually isn't, other than maybe an 8-minute stretch here and there. I just think the music isn't there that we think of as this precious, great film music is. We're remembering it in some kind of nostalgic way. Just the idea that film music has the same place in the concert hall as the best music in the canon is a mistaken notion, I think.
So he's saying like film music doesn't compare to
doesn't hold up to
quote unquote real music.
Yeah, a lot of film music is ephemeral, is what he says. It's certainly fragmentary, and until somebody reconstructs it, it isn't anything that we can even consider as a concert piece. And so, yeah, he's talking like, Symphony No. 5 or Symphony No. 9, Piano Concerto No. 21, a little night music, Ride of the Valkyries, pictures at an exhibition, like true composition pieces from great composers. He doesn't think that film music, even though he's written so much of it, has been awarded so much for it. He doesn't think it holds up. It is.
It's different though. Like, I mean, because you're making something to go along with something. It's not like, I mean, when you're composing like a song, you're making that as its own thing. So, I mean, I don't know if it's even fair to compare those.
Music and movies is very much dependent on the imagery.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the two will go hand in hand. In fact, there's a very famous. What were you going to say, Dusty? Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say it's just fascinating that like he doesn't make a comparative analysis. He just says I'm not a fan of this at all, even though like that's his livelihood. Like I would get it if he's like, yeah, I don't like it as much, but just saying I don't like it at all was just kind of what shocked me.
Well, maybe
That's
he decided
weird.
like I don't like it, so I just get you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's not like I would put on like a soundtrack. I wouldn't put on a soundtrack to listen to. Like I would put on like an album.
No, well, I do sometimes
too.
actually. I love listening to movie soundtracks. Like I'll listen to Lord of the Rings.
I like
Lord of the Rings
listening.
soundtrack is like one of the greatest fucking pieces of music composition like ever, in my opinion. I'll listen to that.
I like listening to video game music.
I've been listening to the Superman soundtrack quite a bit, the new one. I think it's very
The
good.
original Terminator soundtrack is good.
Yep. There's a lot of, there's ones out there, but I get what you're saying. Like, it's not something that I would I feel like listening to this today. It's just sometimes like I get in the mood to hear the song. But, but the reason is also too, as like I was just saying, it goes hand in hand. You listen to it because it evokes the emotions that the movie evokes because they go hand in hand.
Exactly.
In fact, there's John Carpenter has like a pretty famous story about Halloween that when he originally screened the movie for I think both audiences and not one of the producers, but it was somebody who was, maybe it was one of the producers. He had screened the movie originally without the music and without like the soundtrack to it. And it was like, this wasn't scary at all. Like none of the scares really played well. And like, it just, it was like a disaster. Then he rescreened it later on after he added the soundtrack. And that's when it really got like the beats right. Like that's when the scares like hit and the audience reacted to it well, and people actually thought it was like a scary movie because it goes, so hand in hand with what's on screen.
All right. Well, before we get to the movie we're going to talk about, there's no concern or reason whether it flops because we've already got a sequel. 28 years later, The Bone Temple. We got a trailer drop and a synopsis for this movie while we were on our hiatus here.
The trailer came out already?
The trailer is out. Yeah, it wasn't going to be out if we recorded last week, but I think it came out this week. So I actually just watched it. This is coming out January 16th, 2026. And it is expanding upon the world created by Danny Boyle and Alex Garland in 28 Years Later, but turning that world on its head. Nia DaCosta directs 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. In a continuation of the epic story, Dr. Kelson finds himself in a shocking new relationship with consequences that could change the world as they know it. And Spike's encounter with Jimmy Crystal becomes a nightmare he can't escape. In the world of Bone Temple, the infected are no longer the greatest threat to survival. The inhumanity of the survivors can be stranger and more terrifying.
That's never been done before.
Yeah, I feel like we got a whole series about this called The Walking Dead.
Well,
Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this.
So they were going to they went into this announcing it was going to be a trilogy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
But the second one was automatically greenlit. The third one has not yet been greenlit yet. It's waiting for the performance of Bone Temple.
Oh,
so
that's funny.
I don't know if you guys remember, but prior to this movie coming out, a lot of the promo stuff showed that one zombie in the field, this guy here.
Yeah.
And people were like, that's fucking Cillian Murphy's character. It's like, first of all, why would they show Cillian Murphy's now zombified corpse body in a field in the trailers? And why would that even be in the movie? Like, why would he be in a field? Like, it's just so many stupid questions about it. But Cillian Murphy, in an interview with The Observer recently, said that his son showed him that everybody thought he was that zombie in 28 Years Later in the trailer. And he said, that's great. People think I look like a zombie cadaver. It's very flattering. So that was very funny.
Oh, shit.
The director confirmed that it's not not him.
But like, look, I mean, I could see it a little bit.
Well, I mean,
looks like
that version of him when he was younger and skinnier, he's not that skinny anymore.
It's flattering that people think I look like a zombie cadaver.
That is hilarious.
Look at this kid. Do you see this? That's fucking hilarious.
Oh, no.
Damn. Oh my God, there's so many pictures. It's so funny.
What the fuck
Yeah,
is
that's
that
some good
one?
memes.
It's just, it was like,
Oh, I see like a little like overlay.
yeah, it's
yeah, he had no
exposed.
cameo in the movie.
No. I'm sure he's going to pop up in the trilogy though.
It was fake. You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. But all right. Well, thank you for the news, Dusty. Once again, appreciate you. Give him a little clap. Let's get into today's review, folks. That is 28 Years Later. So 20 years ago, Danny Boyle and Alex Garland redefined the zombie movie genre with 28 Days Later. Now they're back with 28 Years Later. As we discuss a lot fairly recently with these 20-year-old sequels or movie sequels to 20-year-old movies, did 28 Years Later actually need to exist? Or did it once again reinvent the zombie movie genre? This movie happens to be pretty divisive, so I'm curious what you guys think. Let's get into it. So, as the title suggests, we are now 28 years later from the outbreak of the rage virus. And this time, so they actually did a little bit of retconning. So I remember, Marvin, you had said you wanted to watch 28 Weeks Later to sort of like...
Which I did.
Oh, you did watch it. How'd you end up watching? How'd you end up watching that, but not this one? What happened there?
What do you mean? 28. So 28 weeks is... I had prepped for this.
Yeah. But I'm saying, but then you didn't watch
this. But then we
one.
canceled. We canceled.
So you thought we weren't. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So 28 Weeks Later, and that movie's like a fucking straight to DVD movie. I forgot how bad it was. They like the camera is just fucking just shaking all over the fucking place the whole movie. It's just like a cheap recreation of the first one almost is how it felt. But that movie ends on quite a cliffhanger where they show Paris suggesting that the rage virus has escaped the British Isles and is now reaching mainland Europe.
Right.
So that movie also established a new virus mechanism, which was the fact that some people are just carriers and they don't actually get the virus, they just carry it and can spread it. So 28 years later, retcon that out, that doesn't exist. However, the movie does slightly address that, yes, the virus did reach mainland Europe, but the European Union and or not the European, well, whoever, France and like the UN and all these other fucking organizations sort of pushed it back and then quarantined off the British Isles. So that's where this movie takes place. We are on basically we're in a containment thing. They've contained the virus to the British Isles.
Quarantine zone.
The country is a sealed quarantine zone. And the interesting twist here is that society outside the zone still functions. Like life has gone on. They are in modern day, full modern society. We get some glimpses about that in a little conversation later in the movie. And the world has just moved on. Like, oh, this virus exists in Britain, and whoever is in there, fucking whatever's going on is going on, which I thought was really interesting. I thought that was a really cool like concept to bring to the zombie movie genre, because it's always just, you're either in a quarantine zone that's safe and have to go outside of it, like Last of Us, or the whole world has fucking come to an end and like you're just surviving in it. This was a cool, interesting take that like, oh, the world just fucking moved on without these people. It is what it is.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy. Yeah.
Well, you did have the Zack Snyder James Gunn movie where they went into the quarantine zone to rob the bank. Was that the zombie movie?
You're thinking of the Zack Snyder movie without James Gunn.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the one in Vegas. That was, I don't know.
Oh my God, with Batista.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that he did with James Gunn was the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which is very good. But yeah, so that's cool. Society outside is fully functioning, and this gives us this rare zombie backdrop where the apocalypse is just localized rather than like a global thing, and it changes the tone quite a bit. In fact, especially the way the characters are and like how they interact and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting, and we'll get into that stuff. This stars Jodie Comer as Isla, her husband, Jamie, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, their son, Spike is his name, who's played by Alfie Williams, and then a little cameo from Ralph Fiennes, who's Dr. Kelson. And basically, this movie is about this little group of survivors on an island, and they're sequestered by the incoming and outgoing tide that creates a land bridge when at low tide that connects them to the mainland, where they go from time to time to collect supplies and stuff like that. And in this particular story, Jamie is taking his son Spike out for the first time to the mainland to go on like a little it's more like a training sort of like rite of passage thing of like, hey, this is our society, this is what we do to survive, so like now it's your turn to start doing it. And they run into some fucking zombies, and we're introduced to some new versions of the zombies, these like fat fucking slug guys, and they're fucking
alphas.
The alphas who have giant fucking dicks flopping around. They're communal now, the infected, which is interesting, and there's a lot of cool stuff that we come to see. So let's kick it off. Marvin, what'd you think generally?
I didn't see the point of this personally.
Okay.
We were making jokes about The Walking Dead, but it definitely just felt like that, more of that, where like each season of The Walking Dead, it just starts to get more and more crazy, where like the zombies are like almost speaking or some shit in one of the seasons. So it's like,
I didn't even get that far in that show.
Yeah, it gets crazy. I thought it was this and the second one. I mean, we both agree that the second one was
terrible, one's complete dog shit.
But I think this one was not as bad, but nowhere near as good as the first one, and like didn't have me as invested or even really interested as the first one at all.
So you are echoing a lot of the negative feelings.
Oh yeah, I'm on the negative side.
Well, no,
100%.
but for the same reasons too. A lot of people have said like the tonal shift of this movie. There's actually a few tonal shifts in the movie, but from the first to this one is very jarring for a lot of people, and I understand that totally.
It's like, and they also, it feels like they copied a lot of The Last of Us too, like just with, I mean, maybe that's just, there's going to be trope similarities with the tropes because it's zombies. It's only so much you could do.
That's the thing, yeah.
It was like, it didn't feel like there was anything that we hadn't really seen before.
Really? You feel that way? Even with the little twist towards the end there?
Oh, well, that was a pretty, that was a twist. You're talking about the
pregnancy,
the baby. Yeah. That was a big twist. I will give you that.
Okay.
But that's not enough to salvage it for me.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
How about you, Dusty?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Marvin on this. I mean, it was an all right movie. Had some interesting parts, but largely unnecessary. And I don't know how this trilogy is going to go because I don't know. I don't necessarily have that much interest in the sequel, with the Teletubby gang and Ralph Fiennes' character,
the Jimmies.
Hanging out with the Alpha and the other zombies. I don't know. It just took it in a weird direction. It feels like like Marvin said, there's only so much you can do with zombies, so it feels like they're just trying to like force some story onto you to make you think that, oh, wow, this is different and it's so fucking groundbreaking, but it's like it's kind of stupid sometimes, I guess.
So you felt it was a little forced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I felt a little bit of that, like the first bit of the movie, like when he goes out with his son. So the story really follows Spike, who is from that small island community. His mom, Jodie Comer, she's sick. Clearly has like a brain tumor or something. She's going like in and out of these like, she has these like weird fits and like issues with her headache and her nose bleeds, and she thinks she's talking to her dad.
Maybe she's a carrier.
Well, no, they completely got rid of that. But yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know.
I mean, she held hands with
just real quick with the carrier thing from the
rage bit.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, we'll get into that. Go ahead.
Just real quick with the carrier thing from the second one, like what made them think having one carrier person and then the child or whatever the fuck is also another carrier person? Like,
what do you mean?
What was the point? What was the point of that?
Oh, I have no idea. Who knows? Danny Boyle and Alex Garland had nothing to do with the second one, so who knows?
That's fair. Okay, that's fair. I just thought that was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
like, my fucking cousin twice removed. Hey,
he's also a carrier. No, yeah, it's fucking stupid. But this movie actually does what that movie should have done. Although you can't really do that in 28 weeks. There's no time. But now we're 28 years later. I said the thing. And obviously,
roll credits.
There, as would happen in real life, there would be an evolution to the virus, especially left to its own devices in isolation in this quarantine zone. That's basically what's happening. Nature has reclaimed the land. The infected have just been left to do whatever the fuck they do. We see in the second one, they tell you like, oh, a lot of the infected since the outbreak have started to die of starvation, right? Because if you remember from the first one, like they are just humans. They're not zombies. They're not undead. They have the rage virus. So in the first one, we are already introduced to the concept that they have human qualities that are suppressed by this virus. Okay. Now, 28 years later, well, those human traits are starting to surface and adapt to the virus or vice versa. So, this group that we encounter in this movie, this like tribe almost of infected, that's why they are in like a pack, and they have developed like a pack mentality. They have developed like cooperation skills, and You see, like, there's very clearly they're communicating with one another and on some level. They've developed like alphas that like take over the pack. It becomes like a very animalistic pack mentality. And honestly, it kind of felt fairly realistic in terms of just how nature operates, and that like you could imagine that after this long period of time untouched by any outside forces, like this could happen, right? Like it could evolve to what we see in this movie. So I didn't really mind that too much. The twist that had happened was the pregnancy that we talked about. At one point they come across this pregnant infected, suggesting that she was pregnant while she became infected, and now she's having the baby when she's in labor when we come across her, and the baby is not infected. Ralph Fiennes plays a doctor, and he pretty easily explains, and that is, I actually looked into it. It's based on real, like, actual science. Like the placenta in the womb, like, protects the baby from like everything. That's why a lot of times, like, you don't like. I think the placenta acts as like a filtration system that like can block out like viruses and stuff like that. I think there's some cases where like a mother could pass,
unless you're Blade.
Yeah, unless you're Blade. I think there's some cases where a mother could like pass AIDS or HIV onto a kid and stuff like that. So there's obviously like, I don't really know the exact science to it, but I think it was like semi-realistic that like if a mother was present with a virus, the baby could be free of it. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. And it added a new layer of like storytelling to the zombie thing. Like you guys both said, like there is only so much you could do with a fucking zombie movie. We're out of ideas now. Like we've done it all. Thanks, Romero. But like,
you're talking about a World War Z sequel.
Yeah, more running zombies piling on top of each other. Like, what are we gonna do? So like, you know, the first movie, 28 Days Later, reinvented the genre in that like this is, well, they're not zombies, they're fucking raged humans. And it was gritty and like about like the human aspect of it. But this is that still. So I felt the same way you guys did in that first half of the movie when he's out with his dad and stuff like that. Once he goes out alone with his mom and that movie kind of takes a turn and it's no longer really like it's still pretty thrilling, but it becomes a different movie, and it's more of like the first one where it's really about like humanity, and this movie expands on that, and it's like what it actually means to be human. That's why the baby scene was kind of like, I thought it was really great because it's like the infected mother was like clearly enraged by the virus, was no longer human, but on some level still had that like motherly connection where she was like, oh, I'm trying to have a baby and preserve like that human instinct, that, or even animal instinct to like protect your young is still there in her, even though she's a fucking raged out zombie. Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that introduced like a really cool, layer to the story of like what it means to be human. And then of course this movie really explores death and like how we deal with it as human beings. And like we've talked about this before, but like we're the only species that like exists as far as we know that like under the constant understanding that we're going to die eventually, right? Like so that's like a heavy thing to deal with, and this is what that movie explores through Spike's experience like trying to save his mom.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think the second half of the movie actually, not that it saved it. I actually quite enjoyed the first half. I thought it was very thrilling, especially when that fucking scene when the alpha's chasing them in the water and they're like struggling and falling, and he's just like fucking like not stopping. Like I was literally on the edge of my chair. I noticed like that's
thrilling.
It was tense. Yeah, I agree.
That's an expression, on the edge of your seat. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat. Like I was.
Like, oh fuck, what's gonna happen?
I was like, in front of my fucking screen, going. I was like, holy fuck. So, and then the movie does another interesting thing too, introducing it, with a child, right? Like he looks up to his dad. He sees his dad as like his hero. He's the guy, and then he sees his dad cheating on his mom, right? From a kid's perspective, that's like, oh my God, that's devastating. Everything I thought I knew about my dad is fucking crumbling down.
Right.
Can't really understand or comprehend the fact that his dad has needs too. Like his wife is not his wife anymore. She's obviously sick and dealing with this stuff. Like, not that you're supposed to cheat on a sick wife, but like, it's like you could empathize with the dad and why he's behaving that way, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I thought all that stuff was cool. What did you guys think of like the new zombies? I know you said it was like a little bit like Walking Dead-ish, but you didn't really you didn't like that they were like sort of. I was getting like big caveman vibes from them, not because the alpha looked like a fucking caveman, but just because like how they were behaving, like they were calling to each other and like, you know.
Yeah, I like the idea of them evolving and like slightly overcoming the virus too in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty good.
It almost makes you feel like you could like see a world where like this new evolution takes place. Where these are like, you know, early humans like Homo erectus, whatever, and then like they would evolve into like, I don't know, whatever you could imagine is like a human version of an infected thing.
Not an entirely new idea. They kind of meddled with like the consciousness of zombies in a lot of other movies, like I Am Legend kind of deals with it, and the Zack Snyder movie does as well.
Yeah.
So
well, I think with 28 Days Later, when I vividly remember talking about this, the appeal of that movie is the human element. It's like that movie is really not about the virus. The virus is just the plot device. It's about the human element. And I think this continued that trend.
Right. Basically a coming of age story for
just in a different way.
Stuck on the island. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a kid who's like trying to save his mom and doesn't really understand. But also you got to keep in mind the kid doesn't have any understanding of like the world. He was born into this quarantine, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I thought when he meets the Swedish soldier guy, can't remember his name, Eric. That was a really awesome like section of the movie, in my opinion, because here's this guy who explains. This is where we get the reveal. The big reveal is like, oh no, the world moved on. Like everything's fine outside of England, and that was always a lingering question from the first one, right? When you see the plane fly over, and that was like. The ending of that movie, 28 Days Later, is so fucking... It's like one of the best endings, I think, in movie history because it like leaves you with both a lingering sense of like hope, like, oh, there's other people out there. This is localized. But also the like of like, oh, we're kind of like alone here. Like this, no one's coming for us or whatever.
Right.
And this just expanded on that. So it's just, I don't know. I thought it's a really cool setting. And he's like, yeah, my friend's a fucking delivery driver. I should have done that too. But I'm in the Navy. Our ship crashed. And now we're fucking stuck here fighting fucking zombies with you guys. And it was just a really cool reveal. And the kid is like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any of this shit.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what online means. Yeah.
Yeah. Am I lagging or are you guys lagging?
It's probably me.
No, it's Dusty. Dusty's not you. But I don't know if it's on my end or his end. Oh, it's his end.
Oh yeah, I see it.
So yeah, I thought that was a big appeal for me. And then he runs into Dr. Kelson, and Dr. Kelson is like this doctor guy, and his dad had told him like, oh, he's fucking crazy. He's stacking bodies and stuff like that. And then when we meet him, you realize like he's actually like a good dude. And he's building this obviously he's kind of gone mad living in this world, but like he has built this like the Bone Temple is what the title of the second movie is his structure of skulls and bones and stuff. But it's like he says a memento mori, like a in memoriam to those who have died, and like a reminder of death, of like that death comes for everybody. So I think what this movie's like real central theme is like these primal fears is not really so much the fear of the infected, it's the existential fears of like death and like the other person, our neighbor, the soldier, the fucking weird doctor in the woods burning bodies and stuff like that. And not the horror doesn't come from the infected, the horror comes from everything else, which is a pretty common theme in zombie movies. It's not really it's not like revolutionary in any way, but I liked the way that they did it in this.
Yeah, I always liked that aspect because we see that in different genres too. Like if you think about any type of post-apocalyptic thing, like at some point it becomes the norm, right? Humans adapt and they get used to whatever situation they're in. And then, okay, I know what to expect from the zombies, but now it's still this fucking other group of people over here that might just fuck me over. And you're like, there's you just got to always be like watching out for that. So yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
Rick is the worst, bro. He trusts everybody in that fucking show. Not me. I wouldn't trust anybody.
Dan is an admitted kill on sight person in any sort of apocalypse.
You shoot on sight, bro. I don't care. You're opening yourself up to all sorts of crazy shit. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But
hard to tell.
So there was nothing in this that was redeeming for you, Dusty?
Oh no, I mean, like I said, there were some good scenes. Like I thought the alpha zombie chase was thrilling. You know, finding out that Dr. Kelson or whatever was just, you know, he was a smart guy living by himself. And then it makes me wonder, like, Spike's dad, like, was he just telling a story to keep Spike like away from it? Like we all ran away from that guy and nobody's ever been back since. Like, why wouldn't anybody go talk to that guy and see what's up? Like, are we really that scared, like, of one guy out there?
I think, yeah,
that's like another of the human factor. Like,
yeah,
rumors spread, right? And then next thing you know, the guy is like a monster. Like, it started off like, oh man, this guy cussed me out, or this guy, whatever. And then next thing you know, he's like the worst person in the world. So
to be fair, if you came across a single man with like hundreds and hundreds of bodies, like nicely laid out, I feel like that would probably be pretty scary.
That's fair.
But like, it's part of that theme of like you're afraid of that. Like they'd rather stay isolated than like go talk to that dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When in reality, he wasn't really that bad of a guy, or maybe he is, and we haven't found out yet. But
right.
Now, obviously, it can't be a horror movie, especially a zombie movie, without the cultural commentary. I think Danny Boyle and Alex Garland were like pretty explicitly. I think they've even mentioned it in interviews, but like this movie was like very much about, well, not about, but like it has parallels to not only COVID-19 and that the pandemic and like how society like rapidly changed and like all this stuff, but also Brexit, I think, was like a big part of it. Now, obviously, we're Americans, so we didn't experience that. But during Brexit, for those that don't know, England made the decision to leave the European Union and sort of isolated itself from the rest of the European Union. And they got cut off from like trade and this, that, and the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. Big political thing. But I think that kind of is like a narrative there in the background or some parallel to it. But you know, again, at the end of the day, I think it's really a human story, and it always has been since the original. And I like how it explored it in this movie through a different lens. It showed how the, like, you know, communities like break down under like with the pandemic and stuff like that, and like just like it had all the similar beats of a zombie movie, just done in a differently, more unique way. Is like really the only way I could, you know, explain it. And also, this movie was beautiful. Honestly, a lot of the shots and stuff, like very,
that's true.
Very beautiful cinematography. He made a lot of bold, I think, stylistic choices, like with the kill shots, that like the freeze frame and like those camera things that he did. But like a lot of like the long shots of like the town and like the ocean and the island and stuff like that. Very beautiful, and like there's a lot of like serenity in it, like, which is in the midst of this like chaotic shit. A lot, again, like the first one did a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty, by the end of the movie, it was like, I was very, like emotionally attached to what was going on. I cried, no surprise there. But when, you know, he finds out that, you know, obviously the big reveal is at the end his mom has cancer. Clearly we knew she had like brain cancer or something, and the doctor's like, yeah, we can't save her, and she decides to let the doctor sort of put her down, and it's just like a very emotional thing. And that's like, again, the central point of the movie is like dealing with death and accepting our mortality and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know, just did it in like a pretty beautiful way. And it's like also the kid too. There's like the symbolism of the baby, like it's new, like one life is born while one life is ending. A lot of shit like that. True. So yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't blame you guys.
If they hadn't had the superstition of the doctor, they could have maybe gotten her some treatments and she could have lived longer. So there's also that.
Yeah, that's the ultimate irony, right? Of like, and the kid says to his dad, like, "What's wrong with mom? Is she dying?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "I think you do know, and you just don't want to tell me." And it's like, Yeah, you're right. That maybe he could
living
have.
in denial.
He probably
Yeah.
couldn't have done anything because he's fucking covered in iodine and like doing weird shit. But like, there's no technology. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. But yeah, I don't know. I do agree with you guys though. I don't blame you guys for feeling the way you did. It is very tonally different. There's a lot of weird not experimental, but like just artistic elements in this movie that weren't in the first one. Where the first one was more like gritty and like relied on like guerrilla filming and stuff like that. This had like, had those like stylized shots and like dream sequences and it was just different. But
Those went
it was
all the
just
way
different.
through the end credits. I don't know if you watched all the credits, but you were seeing flashes of the stuff all the way to the very end.
Yeah. And I like how they did that too. Like when you first get introduced to this pack of infected, like they do that like red flashback of like, oh, they're hunting and killing the deer. Then the alpha fucking rips its head off and sticks it on the fucking thing. And I thought that was all pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, again, does the movie need to exist? No, of course not. The first, like, I don't think so.
Of course not.
No, I mean, it doesn't.
That's funny.
Well, because like, why do we need another why do we need another 20? Why do we need another addition to this world? But it's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal because you're just telling another story in this setting, which I don't think is a bad thing. And if you're gonna do that, and you're gonna do it 20 years later, you can't make it exactly the same as the first movie. Like,
sure,
28 weeks later tried, and it was bad. It was just like a cheap recreation of it. So you either go all in or fold in this case. And so they wanted to make the movie, and I guess they thought they had a good story to tell, and they made some bold decisions to give us something different, which I appreciate. So yeah, I don't think it's the greatest movie ever made, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I appreciate your insights into some of the things that I may have overlooked just because I was
4x speed.
like, oh, this isn't the first one. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. Like I was watching it too until I was like, what? Like I didn't really like that. I didn't care for the like that camera thing that they did where like when the kill shot freezes, and there was like the blood. It reminded me of that fucking game. What is it? Why is my camera not focusing? What is that game with the sniper where you see the bullet like fucking fracture the skull and it's all slow-mo and like freeze framed? I don't know. It just reminded me. It was like it had like some video game shit to it. It was weird, but it was fine. I didn't like it. Didn't ruin the movie for me at all.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see where it goes. Like genuinely, I don't think we need a fucking trilogy, but whatever. We're gonna get it. I'm interested to see more of what goes on here. The Jimmies are some weird, wacky fucking like. That was another thing too, stylistically, that I didn't mind. Like the storytelling. Like the first one is like pretty hyper realistic, like very gritty, like just seems very realistic. This was more of like a. I don't even know how to describe it. More like a mythical, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how to really.
It felt more like. It definitely felt like more.
Almost like folklore.
It felt like comic booky to me, or just
a little
more
bit.
Walking Dead-ish.
The Teletubbies. But like, yeah, they're like doing flips and shit. Like, yeah, it was weird. It was like, there was something to it that I would know. Like, it was interesting to me. But yeah, so that's my thoughts. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about? I thought the acting was all great.
Yep.
Excellent cast. Soundtrack again, and sound design was fucking amazing. What were you gonna say, Dusty?
I feel like this was more of a setup movie for the trilogy, or at least the sequel. Like this was more about like, okay, this is Spike, and this is who Spike is and how he got to where he is. Now let's tell the story of Spike through these other two movies that we hope to make. One's already made and is coming out in January. The other one we don't know, but I feel like it was more. After watching it, it was just kind of a setup movie for the other movies.
I think where this becomes more, I think where this is different than the first one and other zombie movies is like a lot of zombie movies are about survival, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're surviving from the infected. This is a little bit different. It subverts that trope because it's more visceral. It's a more visceral horror, right? and it's like it's emotional storytelling. They're doing world building. It's very character driven, and like the horror is like the horror of being alive, really, of what it is, of like, what it means, what it means to be human, of like, you die, you get sick. The doctor says it. There are many ways to die. Like, some are better than others. I thought that was an awesome little moment there, because that's like the whole story coming to a head like
that's true, yeah.
You're going to die. Whether you're going to get torn apart by the alpha or cancer, or you're going to die comfortably of old age, like, you're going to die. So you have to just like, he tells the kid it's almost more, it's meant to be more celebrated than it is to be feared. Kind of like Life of Chuck in a way, of like, you're going to die.
Make the most of it.
And go out with love instead of fear is basically what the doctor tells him.
Being comfortable with your own mortality, for sure. Yeah.
And so again, like the first one, it uses the infected as like a backdrop for a different type of story. So in that sense, again, it took the same concept of like the human story and I think did a little bit more with it than it did in the first one in a different way. So will this reinvent the zombie genre like the original did, where like it spawned a lot of different tropes of its own, of like running zombies and fucking rage fucking monsters and all this other stuff and ways to shoot? I don't know, probably not, but I do appreciate it for at least doing something different within the genre and its own franchise.
Yep, I can appreciate that too. I will watch the next one to see where it goes, for sure.
Yeah, I would watch this again too. Like, this is a movie I'll probably revisit. I enjoyed it enough to watch it multiple times, and I found it very, like I said, thrilling and emotional and stuff like that. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Were there any other final bits you wanted to talk about?
No,
I don't think so.
Covered.
All right. Well, like I said, it is a little bit split, and for the reasons that you guys said, I think a lot of people ran into a lot of the same stuff with it. And again, I don't blame anybody for that. I totally get it. It's got a 6.7 on IMDb, so not great, not the worst. I would bump it up. I would give this an 8.
6.7. I would probably give it a 7. I originally wanted to give it a 6, but we talked about it more, seeing it a little bit differently. So I
sold you a little bit.
You sold me a little bit.
All right.
Open my eyes a little bit. Third eye open.
Nice.
Not me. I'd give it a 6. It's a mid movie. I mean, it's worth a watch if you like the genre or you like the original. It's not. I mean, but again, I don't think there's anything groundbreaking, and so
okay,
it's worth a watch, but it's nothing great. Like, I'll watch 6 movies all day long. So that's me. But
you'll watch what all day long?
6 movies all day long.
Rated 6 movies. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all right. Can't please everybody. At least you didn't fucking hate it.
No.
Because that's the worst, when you just can't sit through something. I'll tell you what, I almost turned off 28 weeks later watching it. I watched it back to back and I was like, fuck. Like, but like, I'm a completionist and I was like, I gotta see it through.
I couldn't do it.
Dude,
it's so bad.
That helicopter scene was so funny.
That movie has good reviews too. Like, I don't understand why, but like, that's the thing with the general audience. Like, that's why I think a lot of people don't like this, is because like they just wanted more of what the first one was, which at that point don't make, like, I don't want to see the same movie 20 years later,
Right.
There's nothing that, and again, it's the zombies genre. It's played, it's done. Like, we've sucked it dry. So if you're gonna make a zombie movie, try to do something a little bit different. And here we have, like, stylized. It's stylistically different. It goes through multiple tonal shifts. It goes through multiple like pacing shifts and stuff like that. And I understand why that would be a turn off for some people, but we'll see. We'll see where the Bone Temple takes us. I got to go watch the trailer now. I didn't realize it was out. So
yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our thoughts, folks, on 28 years later. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about it. If you've seen it already, if you haven't, I would recommend it. Definitely worth a watch. Last time we got together, we watched Eddington, which might be my favorite movie of the year. Now that we've sat with it for a little bit, I'm not 100%.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure yet. I got a little bit of thinking to do on it, But if you want to hear our thoughts on that, there'll be a link after the video in the end or down below. You can go check that out. If you want to be notified when an episode goes live, you can join our Discord. We also post our schedule there for the month, so you can watch along with us. Next week, we're watching together the controversial movie.
Body horror.
It is, yeah, body horror, but it's controversial. I don't know if you read about the stuff. I think we talked about it briefly, but like they got, there was some.
Oh, they stole the idea, right?
Yeah, there was some allegations.
Or allegedly.
Some allegations thrown, yeah. So we'll get into that next week when we watch it, but join us next week for that. Again, joining the Discord's free. Link will be down below. We appreciate you hanging out, watching, listening, wherever you might be. Leave a like on the video, do all that fun, great shit that everybody tells you to do, and we'll catch you next week.
Awesome.